Good morning, and glad to be here. It's very hard to follow Jan Henrik. Every time I, listen to you, get more and more excited about the possibilities, and that the stuff that you guys are doing is just amazing. So, thank you. So this is a pretty interesting topic, for me personally, and I'll maybe start off with a story. I think Jan Henrik ended the presentation with this hockey stick graph that showed sort of the growth. And I'm pretty certain, everyone that's here has sort of experienced that over the last 5 years or so, and, similar to us. And so the story for me was, I first joined the management committee, and one of our board members basically, sort of challenged us, the management team at that time, to sort of say, you've been in the business for 28 years at that time, now more than 30. What are you guys going to do different? That's make sure that the next 30 years and the next generation is going to thrive as much as you have sort of grown. And we talked about this. I mean, this is a good thing to be, a good place to be at. We were, good equity, good sort of stuff. So what are the strategic choices you would make? And I had the conversation with Martin, and one of the things that we did, we said, we want to, look at, I think we were trying prefab at that time, and all the stuff, I'm not going to repeat all this stuff, but everyone, wants all these things. But at the same time, we're also seeing sort of the challenges that are very similar. The declining labor force, the this constant sort of acceptance in the owner community of sort of doing things differently. I think this compliance and regulatory issues, working with unions and other things. So we know all these challenges. So what are those things that we are going to do to sort of really address some of these things? And what we said is, we need to really look at, if you want to transform our company, we need to look at this from a pretty comprehensive perspective. We cannot do these one-offs. And so the first thing that we did was we assembled a group of leaders, at Stanford. Actually, this was 4 years ago, and really to develop our strategic thinking about where are we going to invest. And one of the things that Martin drilled into us is, strategic thinking about leadership is really about the choices you make and the things that you are deciding not to do, and therefore also things that you are deciding to do. And 2 days into the process, I mean, you can imagine, so this is a group of 70 leaders that are running the company on a day-to-day basis, all hesitant about sort of what they're getting into in a classroom setting. And in a group like this, pretty similar, and being challenged by Martin and others to really define what the strategy is. And a lot of angst, in the first couple of days about, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. And finally, sort of, it started to dawn on all of us that we really need to, change the. If we need to really change the trajectory, we do need to decide sort of on a couple of things. And one of the things that I remember from that program is one of the business school professors using this Peter Drucker analogy. Think of, if you are to really choose something, think of two things. Things where you have unexpected success and things where you have unexpected failure. And we have had a lot of success with VDC. We have had a ton of success with prefab, but we also had a ton of failure with prefab. Not making money or other things. But you can see like a lot of value in terms of time gain on the job site. So what we came out of that is we basically said, if you were to really focus our company over the next decade, we are calling this the decade of sort of strategic growth. We want to control sort of our destiny by really getting extremely good at these 4 areas. Really getting our builders involved in the virtual design and construction process, creating opportunities to be a builder and not just a broker. So, focusing on self-perform work and prefabrication, and then utilizing that, learning through data and putting it back. I think you touched upon AI. I feel like we are pretty early there, but really utilizing that data back into these processes so that we are continuously sort of learning and improving. And if you think about this, and again, you touched upon this, Jan Henrik, was the design is sort of at the heart of this. So I'm gonna maybe go back and just quickly sort of talk about, so, I could talk about all the benefits and all that about industrialized construction. What I thought was, I'll start off with this, one, the high level sort of, alignment, investment mindset. The second really is the focus on focus for us, sort of shifting that focus from trades to really this component-based approach. And then the last thing I'll talk about is design. So I discussed sort of this, high-level alignment, and obviously it required us to invest a lot. So this is sort of our geographic footprint. As you said, this is not for the weak of heart. I think we had to invest a lot in facilities, in resources. And again, a challenge to us was, we could take the resources that we put in on this effort. Any one of those resources could go run a $300 million job for us and be profitable in the current business. But that's the choice that you have to make in this scenario, where you're looking at really solid resources that could do other things for you and and make that decision. So this is a group that didn't exist 4 years ago. Now probably has about 20 people, fairly senior leaders, up and coming leaders within the company. And also then we invested in two big facilities. We acquired an entity that is doing modular prefab on the East Coast, and also grew one. We took over the Katera plant in Phoenix. So we are investing quite a bit. And then the other thing that I talk about is, so all these changes at a strategic level, at the management level, you can make, but you really need to connect to the front lines. And this is basically just showing that, where that magic happens is really in that middle part, the 400 people that manage your projects on a day-to-day basis. Unless they are convinced about the benefits of, what that means, it's not going to work. We can say anything we want. And, I challenge anyone here, just, giving an edict doesn't really work in a culture like ours, especially. But, how do you really connect that? And what we found is, the people that we were selecting in these roles, that were the regional leads, that were the regional champions, they really needed to be these connectors who could translate to a superintendent or a project manager, or go work with an owner that can, basically tell them sort of the benefits, explain it to them in sort of their own words and things like that. But really, bring this sort of strategy to life. And we had to spend a lot of time sort of really, doing that, connecting that. And I would say that that's a continual effort. I don't think we are done. We are continually sort of trying to, educate and re-educate. This year alone, we are going to hire another 1,200 people. So this is not a done deal by any means. And this is a daily thing, daily grind that we sort of go through. The other thing that, that I think we found sort of, just, shift in thinking, like, for our people that needed to happen is really this mentality from, buying out trades to really thinking about sort of a component-based approach. And, as you all know, sort of traditional general contractors, and Martin and I have talked about this a lot, is, what do we do well? We get a set of drawings, and then we are really good at breaking it apart. And then we rely on our superintendents to bring it all together in the field. So we break apart the scopes, we buy out, look at all the structural, mechanical engineering, and then all of that gets spread out into, on an average 32 trades. But if you think about the heart of sort of, what we're talking about in industrialized construction, it's at the intersection of all these trades. And so you really, at the get-go, cannot have a thinking like this, which has been ingrained for years and years in any general contracting company. And how do you sort of really change that, where your point of influence is way earlier in the process, where you have to, during the design process, really think about building as a set of components, and how do you get that sort of thinking really evolved? And so we have been spending a lot of time just amongst our own folks to educate them on what does it mean to think from a component basis. Many of them sort of have experienced the bottom of this pyramid. And the bottom of this pyramid is really a single trade doing modular assembly or a prefabricated system. So, we have all, at least on the West Coast here, or I mean, actually, I would say probably everywhere in the US right now, has experienced somebody doing some level of, modularization. Either it's a large piece of ductwork or, a piece of, equipment skid or something that they have done. But the value and complexity and the level of involvement in the design process keeps increasing as you go up the chain in this pyramid. And that's where the real value is. So we think about, one of our companies is Sure Parts that's developing just bathroom parts, and we're trying to modify them into healthcare parts. Now, there's a ton of value. We can ship sort of empty containers, but it's just shipping air. Versus if you add multiple trades to it, the value of what we can do increases, the quality increases. But that requires a different level of thinking. That requires a different level of how are we going to strategically buy out a project rather than and bring that sort of component thinking based on that of this kind of an approach. So one of the things that we are doing is we've developed a library of components, whether these are developed by us or these could be developed by others that we can work with. We have developed a whole catalog inside that basically anyone can go and essentially not just look at the building information models that go along with it, but also the specification sheets, some of the high level sort of cost parameters, because that's the one question that we get asked all the time, lead times, other things, so that, and what we have also done is we have put people in place in every region that can at least talk to you about, what is the possibility. If I were to come in and go to your project and do a, essentially a prefabrication or, plan, how would I, go about doing that? So depending on where I get involved, how would that look like? Things like which components I could bring in, what that sort of would look like from a cost, schedule, lead time, supply chain sort of a perspective. So we're really trying to do this thinking and approach, because this is where we feel like we need to focus to make that sort of massive change that we really are hoping will happen. And this is my third and sort of really last point. I only have 10 minutes, so I'll talk about this, because this is something that I know Jan-Henrik also touched upon, and I feel like this is a challenge that I think we as an industry are going to have to tackle, collaboratively. I mean, you mentioned, it's not like we are trying to put designers out of business, but one of the gaps that we, sort of have identified, I mean, this is the traditional process. And you look at this and, I compare this to, us making decisions. And if you, think about a component getting delivered on a job site, you have to make decisions about that component, accounting for all the lead times, the fabrication time, the procurement time, things like that. And so how do you sort of, account for that, through this sort of iterative process where the fabrication requires really a linear process? So we are investing heavily in what we are calling design to build. We are not trying to become a designer, but we are investing quite heavily. We recently acquired a structural engineering firm that is essentially helping on those two bubbles in the middle, where we can apply leverage design to our self-perform work, so that we can essentially try and eliminate the shop drawing process. So take the designer's work and not have to then again develop shop drawings, but really eliminate, shop drawings for like, our self-perform work scopes for drywall, concrete, and others. And then the second thing is really utilizing that same sort of design firm to help us with the DFMA and the, for our enabling our prefab. And that's something that sort of, relies on our use of VDC, which has been sort of our strength. And then data, I think already talked about. So again, this is a very similar graphic, where we typically get involved is the blue line, where we really want to influence is that early part and utilize those sort of component-based approaches and things like that. So I think that's where, and again, I can talk a lot about benefits that we are seeing, but I think it would be very interesting, throughout the day to talk about challenges and learn from all of you. This is probably a couple, one or two more slides. I think everybody wants the stuff on the left. They want all that. And what we've typically used this I get sort of, the lean methodology to sort of say, okay, what does this mean for you? So, when you want all that stuff on the left, you're basically, willing to really, align and take interest in design and not approach design as something I can write that risk out. We want people to embrace that risk. We want them to utilize VDC to drive that risk away. We want them to work collaboratively with the design teams, and that's a change that sort of we are really looking to make happen. Thank you.